Okay guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the little cookies and cakes that you had. I like them a lot. But back from the nice cookies to really hard facts and figures. After watching a video, 64% of users are more likely to buy a product online. And even 90% of users say that the product videos are helpful in their decision process. And when it comes to travel, 67% use it to choose a destination. So DMOs, listen up. These figures, and believe me, there are way, way more, and you find it, of course, on the website of the summit, show a huge potential for creating compelling travel videos. To go deeper into this topic, we have invited the social media and content strategists, experts, and video producers on stage. They will discuss current developments and will provide useful tips for all of you guys, and maybe even the guys at the computers at home. I hope so. I hope you're streaming live. And guidance how to incorporate them into an ongoing marketing plan. But let me introduce the panel. Welcome Tran. Anne is one of the social media experts. She's a travel writer and highly regarded influencer with over 500,000 Twitter followers. She is consulting businesses and made it to the top of many prestigious lists, such as Forbes' top 20 women social media influencers. And before her current job, now it's getting really funny, you know me by now, Anne worked in cybersecurity. And when she got the travel itch, she asked her boss for 1 year off. That was 6 years ago. Her boss is still waiting for her. Anne is, by the way, from one of my favorite countries, from Vietnam, but she lives in Washington, D.C. And recent days she spent in Munich at Oktoberfest, and she told me she didn't drink enough beer to dance on the table. I think we're going to change this tonight, especially for, we always want to have your wishes, so welcome, Anne. And she will be joined by Glen Gilmore. Glen made it to another Forbes list, to the Forbes top 20 social media power influencers for a very good reason. He's an author, lawyer, social media strategist, and educator. Time magazine called him a man of action. I would call him clearly the tallest man of the video summit. Please show that, come on, don't be shy. There you go.
I'm sure there's someone out there who's going to prove that statement wrong, but...
We're going to have a competition tonight. Cloud ranked him in the top 0.1% of people talking about travel. Wow. He's a social media strategist and provides customized social media training to members of the Fortune 500. Well done. And what I like most about his bio, he worked at a women-run chocolate factory in the Dominican Republic. How sweet is that? Welcome, Glen. And also please welcome Juliana Broste and her alter ego, Traveling Jules. She's an Emmy Award-winning travel video journalist and experienced host, producer, shooter, writer, and editor. And she creates really engaging travel video contents for travel brands, destinations, and of course media outlets. She was born in Korea, but she can't handle the most spiciest dish of her country, tteokbokki, which is really good, man, eat it. Also, she cannot speak Korean. That gives her very funny experiences in Korea. Still though, she desperately wants to visit Korea back before the next Olympics there, the Winter Olympics. So if there's anybody out here or live who wants to hire her, please speak now or tweet now. She really wants to go back, which is really useful because actually she is a snowboarding instructor as well. Hello! And since Glen, of course, is obviously, I think, the tallest man of Travel Summit, we figured out she might be the smallest one here, but she's filled with power. So please welcome Jules. And also, please welcome Marty McPadden. You have seen him sitting here, and you were wondering, what is this guy doing? He's a great, great guy, of course. He's a producer, and he's the one who is responsible that we are live now, hopefully. We hope about
Finally.
it.
Yeah, we got it figured out. Thanks to the crew here.
Exactly.
Worked very hard.
So Marty McPadden is the founder and CEO of Podgen TV Productions. He also handles the day-to-day operations, which includes producing live and edited audio and video shows, client interface, content management, and conducting video workshops. And I have to say, he's not the only one who is on his first trip to Europe. There's another one, but yeah, he was completely prepared. You can't believe what he has in his small travel box, like little box of adapters and so. And he's completely in love with our ICE trains that he was riding for the first time. So American, do something about it. Welcome so much and have a good talk.
Thank you very much. And before I get going, speaking about the trains, I had a heck of a time trying to figure out the vending machine. I had reserved tickets. And I was going there, and even with the English, I was like, how do you figure this out? I almost didn't get on the train. But once I did, the ICE train was good. But welcome, everybody, to our panel discussion. We're going to be talking about current developments in video marketing and the potential for brands. You've already heard the introductions. So I think let's dive right in. And Anne, I'm going to start off with you. I got a picture that you were traveling earlier this week to Munich. And that is quite a picture, and I think that kind of really tells the story. Now, I know we had the video. I don't have the video, but I have the image. But why don't you tell us about that picture and kind of like the story that you're trying to tell with that?
Well, I always wanted to go to Oktoberfest because my favorite food is German beer. It's a food, right? Anyways, I walked up clueless, not knowing that you need to reserve. So I walk up to the VIP section because all I wanted was the video. I wanted the aerial shot. And I climbed up there and said, I would like to have a beer. And they just directed me to the VIP section, and that's how I was able to get this awesome picture. We don't have the video?
No.
Oh,
no.
darn it.
Yeah.
Okay, you can talk more
We're trying to get the
about
live stream up, so
Yeah.
Glenn.
I saw the video, and I think it's a pretty cool photo that she has, but when you watch this very small clip of video, you want to be there. You want to go there. It is absolutely, it's a very short clip,
10 seconds.
but there is singing and there is just such incredible spirit, and it shows us the difference. You know, the picture's worth 1,000 words. So when you add video to it with sound, with really a sense of emotion, what you can do for a brand as a videographer is absolutely incredible. I look at this picture and say, oh, that's pretty neat. I watched that small clip of video. I want to be there. And that's what a brand wants from you, is they want you to get the viewer to say, I want to be there. And looking at the talent and seeing what you're already doing, it's a connection that needs to be made. Ann did an absolutely beautiful job with that video, and hopefully folks in Munich will see it and say, Ann, we need you out here to do some videography for us as well.
Yes.
I thought what was really telling was it doesn't have to be a long piece of content. Like you were saying, it's only, and I saw the video too, it's only 10 seconds long.
Right. That's all you need sometimes.
That's all you need,
yeah.
right?
And sometimes it's impromptu. You just have to be right there, then and right there. Just get your camera and your video ready. And that's what I'm basically focusing for the last 2 months during my trip. I've been in Europe for 2 months, going home finally, I think on Friday. So it's time to take a little break.
Absolutely, and that kind of leads into our first question, and I think you kind of told your story with that video from Munich, but maybe Glen and Juliana, can you tell us about time you use video to tell a story?
Hello. Hello? Yes. I'm really honored to be here. I represent all of the creators that just do that every second, right? All the time. And for me, it's a funny journey picking a story, because I think I've come from a really unique, blend of a career, from starting as an intern in a newsroom to working at a small TV station in the mountains, and now being freelance. So one of my clients now is Colorado Ski Country, and I'm a snowboard instructor. I actually had the chance to visit almost all of the ski resorts in Colorado, one of them being Silverton Mountain. Has anyone ever heard of Silverton? Yeah?
There you go.
It's so tiny. It has, Colorado is known worldwide for its amazing ski resorts, and Silverton has one chairlift. And most of it's for advanced skiers, and it's all backcountry. So you ride the one chairlift up, and guess what? They have a helicopter. And you can ride the helicopter a la carte and ski down to some foreign place with lots of powder and enjoy fresh powder turns all the time. And me going for fun, I brought my point and shoot and I brought my GoPro, and had such a fun time telling my story that day, just with the small tools in my pocket. And anyone who knows me knows I love camera gear. I have a closet full of camera gear at home, big cameras, small cameras, lots of choices. And what's so fun for me is that I actually told this story in a short, like 1-minute video, gave it to Colorado Ski Country. We entered it into the Heartland Emmy Awards, and it actually won for video journalist. And what's funny about that is, again, I shot that with a selfie stick and a point and shoot. And it was really a great moment to realize, like Maddie Brown said, is that it's all about the story, right? And much like Greg Brand, who I love, who talks about marketing, it was a really great opportunity to work with a brand on something that I care about. And overall super rewarding. So I think my day heliboarding in Colorado, Silverton Mountain, was probably one of the funnest videos I got to do, just for the love of doing it.
That's awesome. I think you raised a really good point there. I have the new iPhone 7 Plus. It's got the twin lens, 12. Yeah, it is. It's nice. 12 megapixel camera on the back, 4K video, optical image stabilization. So you see where I'm going with this. Juliana's talking about, and I love gear too. I love all the gear. I got the PTZ camera here. I got all the gear for the live stream. But I'll tell you, I mean, this in your pocket has gotten so powerful. I mean, when you can do 4K video, rock steady, and I was in Berlin coming into Leipzig, and I was just doing a pan shot of the station, and just handheld, and people were saying, what, you got it down on a tripod, and it looks so great. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. So I think your story, and I think people will let the technology stop them. They really don't have to anymore. I mean, this really helps you get going. Glenn, do you have a story?
I was going to make really an observation on the notion of storytelling. I'll often work with brands, and we will often do this strategic analysis. And one of the things we look at is what's out there on YouTube about their brand. And very often, a brand, whether it's a destination or some sort of facility, they don't tell their own story. And they don't control their own story. And the content out there is not really good quality at all. And so once a brand realizes that YouTube is still the second largest search engine on the internet, and when they go there, what they see about their brand is really not representative of their brand, they go into a little bit of shock, and then they realize that they don't have the capability or the talent, but you all do as great vloggers. And so that's where the connection is made to give you the experience to help share their story and tell their story in a way that it should be told, with that emotion, with that enthusiasm, with that bright eye. And so it's a need that brands understand they need to get good storytellers to tell their story, and it's happening more and more.
And that's a great lead in to our next question. We talk a lot about influencers, and kind of throw it out to the panel here. How do you define influencer? Does it mean having a large following count, or is it something else? And I'm not sure who wants to take that first.
For me, I don't think it's about following count because, well, when I was asked to take over an Instagram account for a brand, and the person that ran the account before that had 250,000 followers on Instagram, I only have 11,000 because I got in the game a little later. I was a little bit intimidated, I admit, but I took over and I received a report back, and they ran a report. They showed how many followers I was able to grow for them, and they loved the engagement. They loved the fact that I jumped in front of the camera, engaged with the audience. So you can be creative with your small amount of following, and that can, change the mindset, and I love it. And another thing is important to not be scared to say no, because I was on 2 cruises. One was in Norway, and the other one was through the Meds. And they wanted me to take over in Norway, and I had a feeling that Wi-Fi was going to be a big issue. I didn't want to say no, but I did. I said, you know what, this isn't going to work. Let me do a great job for you on the next cruise. I said no, and I had time to think how I was going to do this, how I was going to grow their account, what sort of stories, the angle, the perspective, and so forth. And they were really pleased with the job. And normally, your client will write maybe 2-3 sentences or maybe 2 words, great job. No, this was like a whole page. So, don't be intimidated by your following, and follow the story, follow your passion, not just the likes and the, you know, the buying, the following. Don't do that, because I know for a fact this client knows when you're buying, following. So don't game it, just do it passionately. And I also have, like, I owe them 2 articles per month. So when I write, I get paid. But I won't write just so I can get it paid. I will only write and send and submit an article only if something I know is going to move, only if it's going to be that is beneficial to them. Not just, it's just not, okay, that's another whatever X amount in my bank account, I won't do that. So if you really follow that, I promise you it will work. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but it will work in the end, to your benefit and to your client.
You know, before, I think what struck a chord with me, that answer, is that, you know, patience is part of this too, right? So when you're building a following, a friend of mine who I co-host the show with, Mark Rogers, who's going to be part of the final session, is a passionate person about college football, started a YouTube channel, and he's really good, but he had no following. And he's been doing it 5 or 6 years now, and just now, he just crossed over 1,100 subscribers, just starting to really gain some traction, and now it's starting to go up like this. But I think people's expect it to go up like this right away. And just like you said, you know, slow and steady, making sure that you're actually, you know, creating those real engagements instead of kind of the perceived or fake engagements. It's going to take you much longer way. I don't know if Juliana or Glen, yeah.
I'd also add that there's a difference between popularity and influence. Popularity commands attention, influence inspires action, and you've got to be relevant to your community. My primary hashtag on Twitter is @Glen Gilmore, which has about 320,000 followers. But I'm also passionate about travel, and so I have a niche account, Travel Esquire, which has a little over 100,000 followers. That smaller community is much more important to me in the travel space than the significantly larger community. If I began to share a lot of content about travel at Glen Gilmore, it wouldn't work, because at Glen Gilmore is where I share mainly information about social media marketing and about technology, and so the audience is different. So you've got to be relevant to the community that you have, and I think brands are also becoming more sophisticated to understand they've got to target who it is that they want to bring to them, and so when they choose brand ambassadors, they're trying to have a better sense of who they really have as their community. When we're talking about influencer marketing, we look at an influencer and say, who is the community that they're going to bring to us? What is that community like, and what are those demographics like, and do they match what we want to connect to us? And so I wouldn't stress as a vlogger necessarily about the size of your community, but the quality of your community, as everyone here has said, and the relevancy of your community.
And also, ultimately, when you are bringing traffic to the site, because let's say you're writing for a particular brand, it's not just the number of hits, the number of retweets and reach. Ultimately, they want that sell. They want you to sell that cruise. And they are smarter now, and they can track that. And that's what you want. Your end goal is that, is making the passion and the story. Why do you want to travel to this location? Or shoot a video, like you said, in Munich, where like, oh, I want to go to the next Oktoberfest. You know, that sort of thing.
Juliana?
Yeah, and I want to echo that. I agree. I think Anne's idea about numbers, and that's all true, right? It's like people think influence is numbers, and that's kind of not always true, because sometimes a small following is very powerful and even mighty. Like if you have 50 followers, well, if there are 50 people in this room and they don't want to sit here waiting for you to check your iPhone, I mean, that's it's a mutual relationship, right? So for me, the traditional definition of influence would probably be numbers, or what brands often think is people, like power, right? Can you influence somebody's decision? Will they buy that cruise? Will they buy that product? So if it's creating an action for that audience, that's influence. But I really want to stress, from my point of view, that I think the power of influence is in your hands. It's the power to create. It's the power to produce things. So everyone has that power in the iPhone now, which is crazy. And so I think anyone who has an iPhone or anyone who has a smartphone that has a camera, now you have power. So just because you don't have numbers, you still have power, because you can create. something that will influence somebody.
And the best part about that is when you're starting out, there's very few, if not, you're going to be talking to nobody for a while, or very few people. That's when you want to make your mistakes. That's when you're starting out and you want to test stuff. That's a luxury. Then when you start gaining a following, it's a little bit tougher because the comments come in, they get a little more critical, and there are a lot more eyes on you. So and also I like what you said, Juliana. I mean, there's really no excuse now to get started, and then you can always, iterate from there. There's always a better camera. There's always more technique. You'll learn technique as you go along, but it's that slow and steady wins the race type of thing. It just takes a while to do.
And Marty, I would also add too, for a lot of people who are starting out on a particular social network, if you're sharing good quality and an influencer sees it, you may find very quickly that there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on that content because an influencer, somebody with a large community of their own, might share it, and then you'll see within moments. I know that Ann is always showing and sharing good content, so I'll watch her page and I'll share some of her content. Well, right between the two of us, you suddenly have got quite a few, and I've seen that happen where it's a very small account, but they're sending out good quality stuff, and I use a lot of Twitter lists, but they're all private Twitter lists because that's part of my secret sauce. But on those lists are people who have very small followings but are consistently putting out good content, and you'll see some of them percolate in my stream because they're putting out great content. So don't be discouraged if you're just beginning in this space.
And also, I would say this, no niche is too small. I mean, the smaller niches lots of times have very, very engaged audiences, and they don't have to be large to have true influence, to work with brands. There are niches where 1,000 people really engaged is a lot, So, I think you brought that up, Juliana, which is really important to realize.
Well, yeah, I think even just somebody coming up to me and asking like, oh, what camera is that? That's influence, right? So you don't need numbers to be influential. You just need to have a message, and that message needs to be received. And if they take action, if they research that camera or they buy it, that's influence.
Exactly. And one of the rising areas that influence is becoming very important is live video. We're actually streaming this panel right now. So I would say, let's talk live video, and let's draw it to the panel here. How would you see brands best using this technology of live video?
I think giving that inside glimpse, giving people special access, and you'll see that big brands are doing this, whether it's a hotel that's saying, we're going to be opening up a new location, and why don't you come in, and we're going to open the doors to everything for you, and understand as well, live video doesn't mean that you share the content without any preparation. Successful live content goes with a lot of preparation, and so you'll see that someone on Periscope that gets a lot of engagement didn't just make the announcement and start filming. They let people know a week in advance, and they, through other platforms, gave people alerts about the fact that there's going to be this live video. So do your homework with that as well to do justice to yourself and do justice to the brands as well.
That's a great point. Preparation. I know by producing shows, and I call it the 90-10 rule. 90% of the work happens before anybody sees your video, and 10% is what actually people see. So this is the 10% up here. The 90% happened well before this conference. So, and that goes to any of the shows I do for clients. And I think lots of times when I'm working first time with a client, they're surprised that it takes that much work. And especially when something's not seen by the viewer, it's hard to explain. But the more prep you do, the more 90% you do, the better 10% gets.
I think I just want to add that I don't think live video it's not really new, right? The newsrooms have been doing it forever. What's new is that we can do it, right? So I think it's just important to remember that not everything is worthwhile in live video. That's why we edit, right? And I think what's cool about like Snapchat and Instagram stories is that you're editing on the fly, in order. You're editing that video instead of going home and sitting in front of Adobe Premiere for a while. You're just editing it right now. So with live video, I think it's really key to pick the right moment to live stream, and is there actually somebody interested? Is it something that will ever happen again? Is it? And what else is nice about live is that it's real. It's raw. So a benefit is that you can't edit, right? So you can't be like, oh, can we start over? I hate what I said in that answer. You know, so I think there's definitely a place and a time for live video. It doesn't replace the high-end production. It doesn't replace, TV shows and whatever. It's just a separate category. So I think you have to choose, like, do you want to enter that category, or are you happy with video as in your edited ways?
But what you can also do when you're creating video, I'll create videos on Twitter, a little 20 or 30-second video, and I'll post it on Twitter and also on Facebook. And on the 2 cruises, I probably created 30, 40 short videos. Once I have those videos, I go home and I string them together for, let's say, the topic is Norway, or the topic is Athens, Greece, and so forth. What you do is, what I do is I take that content and include that link to YouTube and give that to my client along with the article that I owe them. So that's giving them extra content, and that was an extra bonus. They weren't expecting a video, and they love it. So just go in that extra mile, creating content for yourself and for your client for searches.
Yeah, I'll echo what Juliana said about there should be a purpose for the live video. I see a lot of people will get, it's so easy now. Everyone has it right in their phones. Periscope, Facebook Live now. YouTube is going to be entering this space. And also, I think, everyone thinks that live video started in 2015 with the release of Periscope and Meerkat. Well, it did, and like you said, I'm glad to hear you say that. It dates back years. It was just harder back then. But I think the reason why it kind of came into the mainstream, in 2015 is really the intersection of technology. The phone itself, it's good enough now where you get HD, 4K video in a very small device. Access to the data is everywhere, LTE is everywhere, and also the bandwidth. It's strong enough now that it supports HD video streaming on the fly wherever you are. So those 3 things intersect, and you got live video, and it's very easy to do. But yeah, there's a purpose to it, and I think authentic, especially with the attacks in New York and some of these newsmaker events where maybe all you have is a phone, and that's good enough, and you're getting the content raw, real, and happening right now. Versus and I'm glad to hear you say produce, because I say that all the time in my shows. Like, this does not replace live produced shows, the high quality. It's always going to come down to that quality. So you always want to get better and better and better, because then, it's becoming a crowded space, and that's what's going to differentiate you from everybody else. So speaking of video, we went to live. Let's talk about the granddaddy of video, YouTube. And I'll throw this out: is YouTube still relevant with all this live stuff going on? Everyone's talking about Periscope and Facebook Live, and that's the hot new thing. And YouTube, let's talk about that. That's been around 10 years, 2006. It's very, very popular, 2nd largest search engine in the world. Why should I go to YouTube?
It's really fun to see how these platforms are, being created and getting all trendy and lots of hype, and then kind of simmering down, right? Like radio, for example, when television was invented, radio kind of was not as cool, but it's still around, right? It didn't go away. And I think, for me, I see YouTube as, for sure, a necessary place to put videos. It's a place where you can obviously make a link or a playlist and send people to watch your video. And most importantly, I think when people are Google searching something, especially for travel planning, that's what they find. So I think there will always be a need for YouTube or some platform where your videos live and can be searched.
And Marty, I would confess that I knew that question was coming, so I actually, before this presentation began, sent out a link on stats for YouTube for 2016 using the hashtag The Video Summit on Twitter. And if you take a look there, they say just demographically for people between the ages of 18 and 49, viewership of YouTube exceeds broadcast and cable, and as I noted before as well, it remains the 2nd largest search engine. So the relevancy and the connection to Google will make it a continuing place that is, Jewel said, we need to pay attention to.
Anything to add?
Well, I just mentioned from the previous that collect your live video and string them together and create a YouTube link. You're repurposing your content. The content's already there, so just repurpose it.
And I'll add to that, add to what Ann's saying, a lot of the live video has kind of a short shelf life on some of these platforms. And I think that's an excellent suggestion, is that YouTube videos tend to have a much longer shelf life, especially with related search. So if you're doing a video and you're doing your SEO right, where you're putting the keywords in the title and up front of the description, chances are you're going to end up in that related search, and that's where a lot of people get traffic, and that can stay going for a while. Now, granted, YouTube's going to, favor the most relevant and the most recent content, but still, I think that longer shelf life has, there's a lot of benefit to that versus just live.
Well, I also want to add the fact that, YouTube is really like Kleenex, right? It's the brand name version of a platform, but there's Vimeo, right? There's other platforms, and I would be curious if more than YouTube, other companies, or will there ever be a marketplace where multiple platforms can survive? Because for a while there was Trip Films, right, and they did travel videos, right, or another niche of company videos. I think that would be an interesting thought.
That's a really good point, and that reminded me of another platform. And I think folks here in Europe are probably more familiar with this platform versus people in the States. But Dailymotion is a platform that is very YouTube-like. I discovered it, I've known about it for years, but I also stream to it on a regular basis, my shows. And the advantage there that I see is that it's much less competition there versus YouTube. It's a smaller platform, but you can stream live. You can upload your videos. It has search, all that. So alternate platforms like that, don't forget about those. YouTube's great, but some of those small, like Vimeo is another one, more artistic, very professional films, very professional video. That's a great site, and people tend to hang out there for that.
And I like how Vimeo doesn't obsess over the numbers quite as much, right? I love that it's just like, do you want to watch a high quality video and have them all in an organized manner? It's a little bit more simple, but obviously YouTube brings that search element that's a lot stronger. So yeah, I think it's nice to have some options, and to our taste, hopefully some platforms will be involved that, it's a lot of power to be YouTube,
Yep.
So it'd be nice to see that
I think
shared.
Facebook's going to have something to say about that. I think they're gunning for YouTube, certainly. So, but let's see. Can you tell us about, speaking of emerging platforms and maybe platforms that aren't as popular as YouTube, can you tell us your favorite emerging video platform? It could be live, it could be produced. Anybody you want to take that? And there's so many coming out like almost every day.
Recently, I hopped on Instagram stories for a client, and I'm completely addicted to it. And it's a great way to practice your craftsmanship and your production value. So just test it, and you get to edit. That's the thing about that. It's not like Periscope. So I'm able to do do-overs. And that's my favorite part.
Excellent.
I would what I said earlier about Snapchat and Insta stories, I love that it's out there, and for the right audience and for the right creator, that's a really fun option to be able to record what you're doing live in the moment and share that with people instantly and have it be disposable. It's really nice that is not permanent. So we had some laughs the other night, and I think that's a good example of content on your Instagram photos page is super curated. And video too, but it's super curated, where it's really wonderful that like Snapchat and Insta stories allows you to create content that will disappear, and so you can be a little bit more real and as well practice your craft so that you have to edit in the moment.
Yeah. I also wanted to add, I was having a hard time growing my following, but once I hopped on Instagram stories, the organic growth showed on a daily basis. So if you're trying to grow your following Instagram, do 2 to 3 Instagram stories a day. I think you'll see the difference in your Instagram growth.
Yeah, you've been shooting. I've been following your stories for the past. I think you've been on the road for like 2 months now, and posting there, and you've been very prolific. It's video and images. I think one of the other things with Snapchat and Instagram stories is that your followers have to view the content.
Yes, it's very powerful.
It's going to disappear. So there's a sense of urgency there. That's very powerful. And in fact, I'm just starting to I like Instagram stories a lot. I do a little more of that than Snapchat. But when I do, I notice, it's like, people get in there and it's like this rush. I mean, Glenn, do you have anything to add?
For emerging technologies, I think of the powerful emotion-evoking 3D, but 3D and then evolving into virtual reality. So no longer are you just looking at something that looks pretty cool, but now you're in the place. In the United States, the New York Times, one of the largest daily newspapers, collaborated with Google and sent out 1 million of these small boxes with your daily newspaper, and you unfolded it. And I noticed that Leipzig tourism has some of those boxes. I don't know how we'll be using them, but I look forward to taking a look at that. But what the New York Times and Google did, they sent out 1 million of these. And they told you, just take your smartphone, download our app, and immerse yourself in a story. And the story was about refugees. And it was such a powerful experience for me when I watched the story, because suddenly you're at the crack of dawn in the back of like a pickup truck, and refugees, but children are coming into that truck, and they're being abused a second time because now they're going to work and they're being used in essence as slave labor in a new destination. And you're in the truck with them, and so you're looking, and we're all a bit jaded with media today. Virtual reality will put us in that moment, and when you're in that truck, you look up in the sky and you see the sky. And wherever you look, you're actually physically there, and it's haunting. And we as content creators are going to have to figure out, how do we tap into that technology ourselves? Brands certainly have got to figure that out as well, but we don't want big brands to control that platform. I want to see that diversity of creativity, so we've all got to figure it out as it evolves.
Is that an app, by the way? Or you said you downloaded an app?
Yes. So for the New York Times, they just have a virtual reality app that then when you take your smartphone and put it in the box, you can now see these stories, but you see these stories by looking up, looking to your side, and you are in the place.
Those are those cardboard apps for your phone. You put your phone in the
That's
cardboard
right,
app.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, do you know of any augmented reality or what is it called? Virtual reality apps that you can download? Because I'd be curious, because that sounds cool. All right, just the New York Times? Google Cardboard. Okay, so same idea with the Google Cardboard. Yeah.
And of course, for augmented reality, we had that tipping point of Pokemon Go, which suddenly told everyone, we're ready for augmented reality. And so augmented reality, just for perhaps listeners at home, augmented reality is where you see something and overlaid on what you see is perhaps an image or live animation. Virtual reality is where you're in the place. You've immersed yourself. And both of those technologies are getting to a point where they're accessible to brands and accessible to creators. And with Pokemon Go, it wasn't just this game, but brands immediately, from large to small, were tapping into it and creating havoc with traffic. And I think we're going to see a lot of exciting opportunities to reinvigorate media with augmented and virtual reality.
Yeah, I love the promise of augmented reality in practical terms. I could see that technology being something that you use in your everyday life. And maybe virtual reality I see is more entertainment and more of a specific experience where you're wearing the headset and you kind of be in a space where you're not going to walk into something. Gaming obviously is going to be big with virtual reality. But yeah, I'm really excited about, for me personally, augmented reality.
And Marty, I know very often when we talk about tourism and we talk about virtual reality that there's a fear that, well, we don't want people to suddenly not come to us. Mm-hmm. I think you will drive more visitors to your destinations. And I think someone kind of alluded to it earlier, in which I think for a lot of people, just as you look back at your photos of travel, perhaps you'll go into virtual reality to relive some of the great moments you had on your travels there. So again, I wouldn't be afraid of that technology. I think it will drive more engagement and drive more destination travel and be a great place to remember things.
No, I agree. I think nothing replaces the a physical experience. It's going to be the premium experience, and the virtual reality. I like coming here, my first time to Europe, first time to Germany. I was on YouTube. I was researching what does the train station look like. Well,
Did you find all these guys' videos?
Oh yeah, I was looking at everybody's videos. Like, what does this look like? You know, so I at least have some idea. But it didn't prevent me that I saw everything. I don't want to go. You know, it's like I want to go more. You know, and it's a whole different experience in person. You know, so speaking of augmented reality, virtual reality, I think it's prediction time. And, you know, I'll preface this by saying, you know, we talked a little bit about 2015 being kind of the tipping point for live video with Periscope and Meerkat coming out and all the technologies converging. 2016, in my opinion, has been, you know, the year of the platform. Every week there's a new platform being launched, either launched or folding or this or that, especially with like person video. I'll mention one platform that I like quite a bit that folded. I'm not sure if you guys heard of blab.im, but that was a multi-person video platform that gained a lot of popularity as far as community goes, stayed around about a year and then folded for whatever reason. I mean, they couldn't make it, and that's a challenge. But so 2017, you know, we obviously video is becoming mainstream. So I'll ask each of you, kind of looking in your crystal ball for 2017 as far as video. What do you see as your predictions for live video or video in general?
Well, my prediction or wish list is to be able to edit more on the video on the spot, on the fly. That would be wonderful. Sometimes I'm videoing and I see a foot or a hand in there. I just want to get rid of it because I can't do a do-over. That would be wonderful. That would be a wish list.
Oh, sort of like, to kind of help you along that and maybe automate it?
You can just edit it,
Yeah.
take the foot out, or take that hand out, or take that person out. I don't want that person in the video.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Juliana?
Actually, you can do that. There's this really cool camera.
There you go.
I saw it at NAB.
I love that.
It's so, I forget the name of it, I'm blanking on it, but it's the size of a room. Like imagine computers back in the day when they were the size of a room. This video camera is the size of a room. I saw it in real life, and it literally videotapes all different levels of focus, so you can film like the guy in the back and the guy in the front of this room, and it films all of that at once. And so back when you're home, you can decide like, oh, I want to focus on the guy in the back. No, the guy in the front. And that's something you can't do now with video. It's you choose your focus in the moment during the field, while you're in the field, and then that's your choice. You can't fix it. Where you can still fix other things like color temperature and cropping and whatnot. That field of focus.
I think you're referring to the Litro camera?
Yeah, I think it is that one. Yeah. I have a picture of it on my Instagram somewhere. It's really cool.
Yeah, you take the picture, it takes all the field of view.
Yes.
And then when you get back, when you're processing the image, you decide, okay, what do you want to focus on?
Yeah.
In that depth
and you
of field.
could delete or that layer of person, like, oh, we don't like him. You could delete that layer somehow.
On your phone, though.
No, not on their phone. Not yet. Again, this is the size of a
No,
computer.
that's what I want. I want it on my phone right now.
She wants it right now.
You live on your phone. Glenn, what do you see?
I just see great opportunities for creators. It will be the year of the creator in the sense that there are so many more opportunities for us to share our content and to make our content a little sexier. And in the process, those of you who have great artistic genius, I think are going to have great opportunities if you do what virtually all of our speakers have said, which is to share your art and to not be afraid. And also, one of the points I would make too, and it's very important, don't let your desire for perfection stand in your way of getting out and doing stuff. And if you share and you learn and we get better, hopefully as we go along, user-generated content, which is all of us sharing our artistic moments, will continue in the year ahead to, I think, be the most important advance in this space.
I'll echo that on the technical side. I've been doing live video for a number of years. My background, I worked for 19 years at ESPN, and I left in 2014, started my own business, and now part of the business is producing live video for clients. But it was not an easy road. I mean, iterating that workflow, one step at a time, learning, like Glenn said, learning along the way, implementing that, and and the thing I would suggest to everybody, especially folks just starting out, is take the time to really learn what's going on, really learn how things work, I know it could be a pain. I know everybody wants that quick start guide, and that's, you want to get started yesterday. But I will tell you, you do yourself a world of good by doing that, because then you're going to have a better understanding, and as new technologies come out, you're going to be able to adapt those that much quicker. So knowing how, otherwise, you're going to see something new. It's like, how does that work together? And you're really not good. And enjoy the journey. I mean, I think a lot of people want to get to the finish line all in one fell swoop. But for me, it's all about the journey, all about learning. Oh, I learned something new today. Oh, that's how that works. And that's great, because that's a real sense of accomplishment. And I never want to get to the finish line. There's always something new to learn.
And Marty, I'd also make the observation, too, that we know from eye tracking technologies that if you use stock photos on a website or any sort of platform, it doesn't grab attention, doesn't hold attention. You use photos that aren't as perfect, but connected or more authentic. You're more likely to grab the attention and hold the attention. And even with some of the live streaming that we're doing now, I was doing some earlier, and someone said, well, can you zoom in? I'm using my phone, so I walk forward. They're like, well, thank you. We do what we can with the technology that we have, and when we do it, we do make important connection, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
I just loved what you said earlier about don't let perfection get in the way of you creating, and I felt like you were talking directly to me.
No, I have to tell you, somebody had said that when I had a fear of blogging, and they didn't say it to me, they just said it. And when I heard that, I said, you know what, I will start. And I'm very glad I did, because I'm here in Leipzig. So there you go.
No, I agree, because that's a problem for everyone, right? For me, for everyone, is we want it to be perfect and we want it to be good, and that's why there's editing, so you can produce the best thing you can. But if you don't create, that's even worse. If you don't share your story, that's a problem, right? So I love that you left us with that note, and I think I just wanted, for me, predictions. I don't have any predictions on the next greatest app or the future of that type, but I will say what's really cool about this conference is that it's a video conference.
Yeah.
And that everybody in here is a creator. And the future is video. Simple as that, right? So it's so wonderful that all of us here in this room are able to talk and share and swap stories and just really harness that every platform, every brand, everybody wants video, and lucky for you guys, you already have a foot in the door. You're on the cutting edge. You're on the forefront of this revolution that is happening right here, right now.
Very good. I think we only have a couple of minutes left. I got the high sign from 5 minutes. So I want to open it up to the audience. If anybody has a question for the panel, our last 5 minutes, on anything that we...
Where's the box?
Where's the box?
Right there.
Oh, there's the microphone.
Ruben, can you grab that box?
People want to...
Oh, thanks.
There you go. I think someone in the
One
back
in the
there.
back. That's a long throw.
Toss it out there.
Hi guys, thanks very much. That was a great panel. Just wanted to chat about, earlier you guys were talking about influencers sort of versus content, and some people are creating really good content but might not have the influence. If you came to a standoff, you had one content creator, really good content, no influence, and I'm not talking, maybe not as Juliana described influence, but maybe no following. So great content, no following, massive following, crap content. Which way are you going to go?
I love this example. Do you guys want to chime in first? Okay. No, I absolutely love this question. I actually want to ask that question too, because the first thing that I do anytime I partner with a brand is I ask, what is your goal, right? And I realize that not all brands or customers or whoever have clients, they don't all have the same goal. And so it really is specific to who you're working with, which one is more important, your following or your quality. What I see happening in the future, I think, is a little bit worrisome, is the possibility that, again, the worlds are kind of merging, right? So one day, is it a problem that you don't have both? Because everyone wants both. They want chocolate and vanilla, right? So it's like hard to figure out, if you only have one life, which you do, which thing do you focus on with your time? And so I think it's really important to identify your path. Do you want to be a professional videographer? Do you want to be an influencer and have lots of audience, right, numbers? So if you could decide for yourself what your goal is, you won't be surprised and scratching your head later. Like, why didn't I end up where I want to be?
But to directly answer which would we go with, I would want the better quality, because I think the better quality at the end of the day will percolate to the top. And people who are influential in the community, I know that for me, I'm very, very often a content curator. So what builds my community is that I will read 10 things and share one. And that's been my methodology. I will look at 10 images and share one. So if you're creating that great content, it will percolate to the top.
I would have to agree with content, because my other competitors that have been invited to work with this particular brand, their following is about anywhere from 250,000 to 1 million on Instagram. And I only have 11,000, but they're coming back to me, not the other two. So for that example would be content.
But I agree. I don't know if I believe that the good quality content eventually will rise. I would like to think that, though. I just think that it's the problem is that in our society we think popular is good, and we think just because there's a lot of people listening, that's good. But again, it's just a different conversation. Is the quality actually good? Did they tell a story, right? Did they use a nice, did they use actual cinematic principles? I think they're just really, I don't know how to relate them.
But Jules, I think the concern that you're raising, and a lot of us have as well, one of the problems with social media is the power of social media. And so when Mark Zuckerberg says that actually people are more interested in a squirrel dying in the front lawn than they are in people dying in another corner of the world, that's frightening. But there's some truth to it. And so when we're driven by algorithms which say, all right, we want that massive following because even if it's garbage, it's going to get more eyeballs to it, that's a frightening development. But I still think that there is this ability for those who really care about their communities and sharing great content. They're going to find that great content, but we have to be aware of the fact that the almighty algorithms of Facebook and others may rebel against that.
Yeah, I think that there's, you could take an amazing photo of Leipzig here, and you have not a big following, and it could just die into the nothingness of content world, right? And how do you know what if that was something really important and newsworthy? There are probably cases where it will surface, but sometimes it won't surface, right? So I think there's definitely cases where that story will float, but will it float? That would be a good one. But I think it's debatable if there's like a standard rule that works every time for me.
Sure.
Well, I want to thank Juliana and Glen. Been a great panel. Thank you guys. I think we're going to wrap it up for the day, right?
Thank you for that question.